at the Movies with Tim Sika. Hi, Tim Sika.
Hello, Kim McAllister.
Thank you for waiting. I really
Oh,
appreciate it.
sure. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
my pleasure. Yeah, I figured it was one of those really good shows where you
yeah.
just, you had to stick with it, right? Until it was
Mm.
done.
Yeah, there really is no choice. Once Mark Thompson gets going, sometimes you just can't stop him. No,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how many chits I give him, he just keeps rocking on.
Yeah.
Well, we have some movies today from you, and the first one that you're reviewing is called Nobody 2.
Nobody 2. Yeah, it's a sequel to Nobody, the
Okay.
2021 action comedy film, which told the story of this guy named Hutch Mansell. He was played by Bob Odenkirk,
Okay.
who's this mild-mannered, family man who returns to his former life in that movie as a hired assassin, an assassin you definitely want, you know, on your side if you were in the market for an assassin,
Sure.
after he and his family become the target of this Russian drug lord. Well, in the sequel, Hutch and his family return, but now, because of the events of the first film, he's got to go back to being an assassin again to pay off debts that he incurred after having destroyed, I think, a Russian bank or something in the first one. I can't remember what it was. But before he goes back to being a full-time assassin, he decides to take his family on vacation. But while on vacation with his family, making memories, as he says over and over in the movie, which is kind of a funny, reoccurring motif, he's repeatedly triggered, and he repeatedly goes back to being a berserk assassin and gets even more violent than he did in the first
Oh,
movie, dispatching the lives of dozens and dozens of bad people who want to kill him and eventually want to kill his family.
yeah.
Now, like Nobody, the first movie, this too is an action comedy, and it's an extension of the first movie. So naturally, we're again treated to some, tongue-in-cheek humor and laughs.
Mhm.
But the violence has really been amped up,
Oh no.
because, where do you go after the first one, right? So Nobody 2 is basically Nobody on the steroids.
Mhm.
One oversized violent action set piece after another with violence that kind of starts off a bit cartoony, but quickly like turns into the kind of violence you just turn away from,
Oh
as it
no.
increases in its intensity as it just goes along. It's violence upon violence until it reaches a crescendo in this ultra violent cinematic finale ultimo scene, which is like, holy moly. Anyway, I will say what's good about this picture is that, it can't help but boast of visceral energy. It's got a lot of visceral energy. It's very kinetic. It moves like the Dickens. Odenkirk is great. Sharon Stone is really great fun too. And she's this, she's like a campy blast as this over the top evil drug lord dragon lady. She's
Mhm.
really quite funny and she's having a great time. It's just that for me, while watching it, I kept thinking, geez, is this what we've become? I mean, is this what entertainment has become, being endlessly bombarded and assaulted by over the top action sequences of violence and killings crafted to also make us laugh? A friend, I was thinking about this when I was thinking about talking about this movie to you. And I said, a friend asked me what I thought of this movie when I saw it, when I told him I had seen it. And without even thinking, I said something to the effect that to me, it gave new meaning to the phrase of the death of culture. I mean, I don't know. If this is your jam, as I like to say, have at it. But I found the entire thing disposable. And one of those movies while sitting enduring it on the big IMAX Dolby screen, all I could think was that, God, with time being so precious these days, I could certainly be spending mine in a million other better ways.
Mhm.
So, I mean, like I say, if it's your jam, check it out. But, you feel when a movie like this is over, you kind of just stagger out of the theater, going, what the hell just hit me? Why do I feel like I just been kicked in the head by a horse? I don't know. That to me, that was Nobody 2 in a nutshell.
I watched the first 2 episodes of The Chief of War, which is a
Mm,
new Netflix. I think it's Netflix or maybe it's Prime. I don't know, one of them. But it is with Jason Momoa, and it is all mostly in Hawaiian. So it's
okay.
subtitles, and it's about the fight to unify the Hawaiian Islands and him, getting stabbed in the back basically by what was then King Kamehameha. So, of course, it's Hawaiian, and of course, I have to watch it, and I know it's gonna be violent because it's the chief of war, so we're a
Hmm.
war movie, I'm expecting that there's gonna be some. And and I know that humans throughout history have done some really crappy things to each other, right?
Yeah.
That did not dissuade me from watching it, but that movie was gross, and I don't mind looking away from the screen for a minute when something really yucky happens because I like the story and I'll look
Right.
away maybe from the violence that I don't want in my I don't wanna, like, have to watch it necessarily, like people getting stabbed and sliced and whatnot.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
the story is good enough, I don't mind,
Right.
like, the glancing away so I don't have to see it. But if it's like this movie where it's violence on violence on violence on violence, and you really just can't look away because that's the movie, then no,
That's it. That is the movie.
no,
Yeah. So what you're
no.
saying is, if it sort of serves the story
Mhm.
in an appropriate way, I
Right.
guess you could make that argument for this in a way. I guess
It's too much. Like,
it's just too much.
it's
Yeah,
too much. Like,
it's too
I
much.
might have looked away in The Chief of War 2 or 3 times. There's a huge war scene that I found very
Yeah.
too gory for my sensibilities,
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I knew it was gonna be gory when some guy got, uh, what is it? Not punctured, but I guess punctured with a piece of wood on purpose,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Yeah.
impaled or whatever.
Impaled. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, like, that I knew that what was coming, but the story is good, and the acting is good, and the scenery is good,
Yeah.
and it's only looking away once or twice, but if you have to look away for the whole movie, then what's the point of even watching the movie?
What's the point of even watching it? Yeah, and Kim, this may be undercutting my argument here, but two of
Mhm.
my favorite all-time movies are The Godfather and A Clockwork Orange.
Right.
And those movies are riddled in violence, but the stories are so compelling and they're
Yeah.
so rich, and violence is so necessary to tell the story
Mhm.
effectively. Yeah, and I still in The Godfather when what's his name? The guy that they want to buy the hotel, the casino from, Mo Green. When they
Okay.
shoot Mo Green and he's getting a massage and he puts on his glasses and they shoot him in the eye and the eye like just explodes and then the blood falls out. That's a scene I always turn away from.
Yeah,
But it was so essential to the story that it was
right.
necessary. It's the same with sex and
Yeah.
nudity too.
Mhm.
You know, for
It's
its
a
own sake. Go ahead.
it's does the story rise to the level that I'm willing to tolerate the violence,
There you go. Well
right?
said.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and there are some cases where the answer is yes, but in
Yes,
a case like this where the violence is the story, then perhaps not, no.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, we'll move on to, and this one sounds violent as well, but maybe I'm wrong. The name alone, The Knife, would mean to me,
Yeah, you would think, right? But
yeah,
surprise it. There's really hard. No, I would say, I don't know if The Knife is a much better film than Nobody 2, but it's
okay,
a better try. It's this stark psychological drama. The plot centers on this African American family who live in a kind of a sketchy neighborhood, but they're trying to, they're trying to improve their lives. They're only there while they can save money to move to a better neighborhood anyway. It's this African American family who, following a late night break in of their home by this unknown intruder, become the subjects of a quietly intense but pressure filled police interrogation. Okay,
mhm,
it's the directorial debut of Namadi Asamuga, who also stars as the head of this family. His wife is played by God, I can't remember, Aja Naomi King, and his daughters are played by real life siblings Amari and Aiden Price. So that's kind of
oh,
interesting there. The cast, all of the acting, in fact, is across the board top notch. One of the very best things about this movie, and one of the very best reasons why it's worth seeing, is the cast and the acting. And plot aside, there's a lot of interesting things going on in this movie. The film is about the meaning of truth, the slipperiness of truth, reality versus actuality, how truth can be twisted under pressure, and about how individual choices, the choices we make at any given moment, result in specific consequences, and how these choices that we make determine our future. It's also, I think, about the dismantling of illusion and the resultant pain of that dismantling. Anyway, it's a sincere film. It's a film that raises many questions about how law enforcement and how those individuals whose duty it is to enforce the law or are consciously or unconsciously subject to our flawed human condition, which can sometimes be overshadowed by our prejudices and our own individual agendas. It's really about a lot. It's about racial dynamics. This film is literally packed with a lot of issues that society's struggling with today, which is really the main reason to see it, and which is why I'm recommending it. The problem with this movie is the script. It's co-written by Asumaga and Mark Duplass, which was a good sign. You know, you're thinking, okay, we're going to be in good hands here, but it's only semi-successful in presenting and delving into these subjects in a kind of organic way. The screenplay, to be blunt, is clunky in that the film's summation, its resolution of all these things that it's introducing, fails to, in my opinion, successfully add up to what we've experienced, what we've witnessed in the preceding drama, and it's way too on the nose in effectively, just for one example, setting up these situations which led to this home invasion. I gather that was intentional, but there are just too many unanswered questions and loose threads which muddy up the film's true intentions, in my opinion. It is, I know, it's not a bad film. It's just that it leaves you unclear about too many of its plot points. I like this film, even though I felt it failed to completely work. I would, without any hesitation whatsoever, give this movie an A for effort, but maybe just a C+ for its overall result. But I do think it's definitely worth seeing and afterwards discussing, just for all of the important issues that it raises. And it does so in a very classy way, and in a very respectful way. It's the first time director. And I think, that's part of it. It's also, I cannot believe this seems like a good first draft of a screenplay that needed a whole bunch of rewrites, which it never got. So
you can almost, from what you said, you can almost see him sitting around the writer's table going, and then we'll do this, and this is what a great idea, and everything, throwing things in, and it was so great, and then it just didn't come out in the end. So
and it didn't come out at the end, unfortunately. But I do recommend it because there's a lot of interesting things kicking around in the story. Yeah.
Your next one is called Boys Go to Jupiter.
Yeah, this is Kim McAllister, unquestionably my favorite, absolute favorite film of the week. It's so different, so unique, so so special, so strange, so weird, so idiosyncratic, so hilariously droll, and just so out and out wonderful that I hope my words today do it justice. It's called Boys Go to Jupiter. It's an animated film, an animated feature, and an animated feature, I think, it is targeted to, I would say, sophisticated teens and adults, but I think sophisticated teens and adults will adore it. It's written and directed by this guy named Julian Glander in another directorial debut this week, and it's a kind of quirky coming-of-age tale about this 16-year-old boy who's a gig economy worker. He works for Grubster, they call it, delivering food, and it's about his wacky and sweet adventures, which include all these weird encounters and bizarre situations with eccentric characters like this adorable donut, which at one point gets flushed on the toilet, by the way. That's a little spoiler. An ex-girlfriend named Rosebud, classic film reference here, only this one spells her name with a Z instead of an S. A friendly worm that sings these hard to put into words songs, but which are completely... they're just delightful and funny. And anyway, I mean, are you getting a picture here what this movie is? I'm rather than run on at the mouth about this movie, which I think is astounding, let me just say that I think if folks are attuned to its highly original and distinct sensibility, as I was, I absolutely guarantee that they'll find this film exceptionally amazing, enormously funny, and just positively wondrous. I think this is definitely destined to become a classic. It's very homegrown, produced, and animated. I wouldn't be surprised if it was created on a home computer. It boasts this look of computerized claymation, but everything about this film, to me, is the very definition of quirky, absurdist, and brilliant. And the fact that its tone is maintained for 90 minutes and never gets old or feels stale. Well, to me, this is the very definition of movie artistry at its highest and most creative level. I just see it. And you know, like I always like to say when I talk to you, Kim, you'll thank me for it. This is an astonishing movie. It's
Wow.
one of the best movies of the year. And the characters are so beautifully drawn and fetching and touching. There's this weird style of acting performance too that permeates the movie. I was watching this film with my mouth wide open for 90 minutes going, I can't believe this movie. This movie is amazing. This movie's hilarious. This movie is just different and unique and special. And at the end, you just feel wonderful for having watched it. Yeah.
Awesome. I can't believe it's an animated claymation movie and it's so great. That's really cool.
Well, you know what it is? It's like, I think it's done in the claymation style, but it's almost like a limited animation, like a computer, like a digital animation that kind of like mocks claymation too, which is also another layer of interesting about this movie. I completely loved it. I can't wait to watch it again. It's in theaters.
In theaters. I was going to say, is it at the big movies or on my TV? Okay.
Yeah, it's in theaters, and I'm sure will come to digital and streaming very soon. Yeah.
The classic movie recommendation of the week from Tim Sika is one of my dad's favorites.
Your dad has great taste.
I have seen this movie so many times because my dad watched it over and over and over again.
You know, I've watched it over and over and over and over again too. George C. Scott, that's a great image there, playing World War II's arguably greatest general, George S. Patton, and in one of the great military biographies, in my opinion, ever brought to the screen. This is a classic character study of one of World War II's most complex and contradictory and at times ambiguous military leaders, probably best remembered as the general who slapped a soldier, powerfully rendered in one of the movie's most memorable scenes. I just think this is a monumental war drama. It won a multiple of Academy Awards in 1970, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay by Francis Ford Coppola, who directed The Godfather. That's a little known fact about this movie. And Best Actor for George C. Scott, who famously, back in the day when it was announced, when he was nominated, refused to accept the award because he had a lot of criticisms about the Academy. He thought they were, you know, this ostentatious meat parade where everybody was sort of put on a, you know, a pedestal, like, you know, actors competing. He just thought it was tacky. But who the Academy, to their everlasting historical credit, gave him the award anyway, in spite of the actors' ungraciousness, shall we say. But everything about Patton is great.
So what happens when that happens, when you won't accept the award, but they give it to you anyway? And does someone have to come up and accept it? Do you pick someone? I mean, because you don't want it, so you didn't designate someone to accept it. So
and he actually said in a famous interview, he said, they asked him, they says, well, what are you going to do if they give it to you? And he says, well, I certainly won't keep it. I'll probably send it back. Now, I think if I recall correctly, it was the producer of the film, Frank McCarthy, who accepted it on his behalf. And I believe the Oscar was eventually donated to the Patton Museum. There's a Patton Museum somewhere in the U.S. So it's sitting there on display. Yeah, it was very controversial. I remember at the time watching it on TV, and I asked my mother that too. I says, "Well, what if he wins?" And in a way, he was probably in the best position to win because his performance, I just think it's monumental and staggering. But anyway. I think everything about Patton is great. The film, I watched it again yesterday. Oh, it's a film I could watch probably once a month, but it like your dad, but it holds up better. Watching it now, it holds up better than ever, despite its having been released 55 years ago. I think it's a war drama too that appeals to both hawks and doves. I've known anti-war people and people who were before war that loved this movie. And that's a testament to the manner in which it was written, which is probably why it won the Oscar for screenplay. So kudos to Francis Ford Coppola. Great screenwriter, too. Jerry Goldsmith music score is one of the cinema's greatest compositional masterpieces. It was shot in 70 millimeter, too, in a subsequently little used widescreen process called Dimension 150. I think it was only used for a couple of movies. It's just one hell of a stirring and memorable movie. It's anchored by one of the movie screen's all-time great performances. I, like your dad, have seen this movie at least 30 times, and I can cite and repeat by rote dialogue from it. That great opening speech where he comes out to address the troops and he just swears up a storm. Yeah, did you like it, or do you feel like I had to keep watching it over and over? So I don't know.
Well, I liked it, but it to me it was a movie that was most often shown on TV on a Sunday afternoon. You know, and somehow my dad managed to find it on anytime it was on whatever channel he was watching.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like always in the background. Like this movie, there was a couple other movies. He liked, my dad, who passed away in January, he liked this movie. He really liked Hogan's Heroes.
Okay.
And so like these old my dad was in the Navy. He was a radar submarine guy. And so like these old war movies always seemed to be on. He gravitated.
That was his thing. That was probably his happy place to be watching those movies. Yeah. But I like those. Yeah, you said he was in the Navy. My dad was in the Navy too. He liked these kind of movies too, but I just like them for a lot of, God, and I went to school, it seemed like forever, but the stuff that I really learned about history, always in every case, and the stuff about history that took in my brain, that stuck there, always came from movies. I would see a movie like Patton or a movie like A Man for All Seasons, about Henry VIII, beheading his chancellor, Thomas More. And I would see the movie, and it would be so interesting that I would go to the library and read books about the history, and then I would think, oh, that's interesting, the movie did this instead, they glossed over this, but I learned so much history about movies, which is why I always enjoyed war movies. I probably learned more about World War II starting with the movies, and then of course reading the historical facts and all that stuff. But that's just one reason why I love movies so much, because I learned so much from having seen them. And I love, Patton's pretty accurate. There's a wonderful book that was written, I think it's called Past Imperfect. And it was this really interesting book that, like, on one side of the, you'd open up the book, and on one side of the page would be the movie. And then on the and how it chose to treat history, and then on the other side would be a page of like how it really went down. So it was a really interesting contrast. And then you reading the book too, you learn all about how, like, Hollywood and how dramatists will oftentimes have to, finesse and just change things around a little bit for dramatic purposes, but they always tried to capture the emotional truth of some kind of historical incident. Yeah.
I found myself doing that with the Crown, the series.
The Crown. Yeah.
That really happened. And then I look it up, and I'm fascinated by the history of it.
Right.
Whether or not they got it right. I have to tell you, because you made me think of my dad. His favorite movie, other than Patton, was Blazing Saddles. And I will never, ever think of that movie without thinking of the fart scene.
Yeah, the fart scene.
Dad, like, he wasn't really into comedies, but except for this one, and he would laugh at that scene, and it didn't matter where you were in the house, you would hear him laughing. And it was so infectious that everyone in the house was cracking up because he was laughing, and the whole family was laughing to the point of tears because my dad is laughing. Anyway, really good memory of that.
We'll leave it to Mel Brooks to even think of, like, writing a scene like that and then filming it. I mean, I don't think Yeah, it's the only movie that shows a scene like that. And everybody I know that even maybe didn't like that movie
Mm-hmm.
always single that scene out. And they can't, and they're usually, when they're trying to recount it, they laugh so hard they can't even get through recounting it. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
funny.
So funny.
Be aware says he and my dad could have hung out on movie night. Yeah. Super
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, let me do the recap. And I know, thank you for hanging out with me a little late today because of everything.
Oh,
But
sure.
we'll start with Nobody 2. You said about this one, it is more violent than the first, like way more violent.
Yeah.
You said it's the first movie on steroids. You said Bob Odenkirk and Sharon Stone are really good in this movie, but you felt assaulted by the killings that were meant to be funny. And you said this was an example of the death of culture. You
God, I did,
said
didn't I? Oh,
you
yeah.
did.
Yeah,
It's
I
the
did.
death of culture. This is the prime example right here. You said everyone could really spend their time in much better ways, but if it's your jam and you're into the killing and the gore and the yada yada, then maybe this is for you.
Yeah.
The Knife. This is, you said, I'm gonna get the right picture up, a great movie as far as the cast and the acting. It raises some really important issues, and you're recommending it because of the issues that it raises and the topics it raises, despite the fact that the clip you said, the script is really clunky. You
Yeah.
said it's not a bad movie, but it really failed to work for you, and that while the effort was an A, the end result was a C. You're not
Yes.
recommending this one.
Well, I actually kind of am.
Oh, you are recommending. Oh, because
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of the topics raised, you said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. You're recommending it. Go see The
Yeah.
Knife.
He goes see the
Uh,
knife. Yeah.
Boys Go to Jupiter. You said this might be one of the best movies of the year. Certainly
Yeah.
your favorite film of the week. That it's special and strange and weird. You called it droll, and you think it's going to become a classic. This one, you said it has the look of being created on a home computer, but it's quirky and brilliant. And this, you said, is a prime example of movie artistry. Super creative. You were astonished by how good this movie was. Boys Go to Jupiter. Your classic movie recommendation of the week, and my dad would agree, is Patton from 1970. You said it's a classic character study, holds up better than ever. This is a war drama, you said, that would appeal to most people, no matter your stance on fighting and war. An Oscar winner with a wonderful score and a hell of a stirring movie, you said. So, Patton is the movie that you should see this week if you're looking for a classic. And there you have it, Tim
There you
Sika.
go. Yeah. George C.
Mm.
Scott, man, he's got the best of any actor. I think he always exhibits the best screen anger. He could get pissed on screen to where his eyes would bulge and the veins in his forehead would pop.
Ooh.
Yeah. Great, great, great anger. Anyway, yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
very
All
good.
right. Yeah.
Tim Sika, thank you. I don't want to keep you anymore. It's after 2, so I'll let you rock and roll, but have a great
Thanks,
weekend.
Kim. Yeah. You have a great weekend too. And I'll talk to you next week.
At the Movies with Tim Sika. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Kim. Bye.